And what do Americans' allies in the Middle East want to hear from President Obama tomorrow night? Secretary Kerry just took off to marshal support from Sunni Arab leaders in neighboring Jordan and Saudi Arabia. But Israel also has a big stake in the outcome of this fight against ISIS. I'm joined now by Yuval Shteynitz, Israel's Minister of Strategic and Intelligence Affairs, responsible for international relations. Minister, thank you very much. I know you just arrived here. I mean, very little noticed is the fact that some of the action with ISIS has been on the Golan Heights. Right on your border was where some UN peacekeepers were taken, not just by ISIS, but al-Nusra and some of the other radical rebel groups who are functioning right up against Israel's border.
Yeah, first, first I think the president is doing the right thing. After all, the only true leadership of the free democratic world is the United States of America. And the president is taking very serious this responsibility vis-a-vis such group like ISIS. And the idea to form a global coalition of Western countries, United States, European countries, together with moderate Arab states against such barbaric jihadist organizations is very, very important. But you know, you already hinted to one very important thing. It's not just ISIS. ISIS is now more apparent because of their very strange public relations.
The propaganda, the social media. It's
exactly. ISIS is more provocative than all other organizations. But Jabhat al-Nusra in Syria.
The other group, al-Nusra.
Yeah, Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza. Boko Haram in Nigeria and Central Africa. And many other such groups are fighting the so-called infidels, Christian, Yazidis, Jews, on different fronts. And the ultimate goal is the same, of ISIS, Hamas, Boko Haram in Central Africa, you name it, and many other such jihadist organizations. The ultimate goal is an Islamic state all over the Middle East and all over the world. So in this regard, it's very important to stop ISIS and to defeat ISIS. But it's not just ISIS. You have plenty of jihadist terrorist organizations all over the Middle East and North Africa.
I wanted to ask you about Iran, because we've just learned that President Rouhani of Iran is going to come to New York again for the United Nations. He created quite a stir here last year, but he's coming just as the talks on nuclear disarmament of Iran have reached a real stalemate in Geneva. They'll resume again next week in New York. But what is Israel's posture now towards Iran, which seems to be internally divided over whether to go along with the nuclear proposals?
First, I'm here mainly in order to conduct the U.S.-Israel strategic dialogue with our American friends and counterparts. And of course, one of the main topics will be the Iranian nuclear project. And you know, although this is a different issue, there is some connections to the issue of ISIS. You know why? Because what ISIS is trying now to establish in Iraq and Syria, an Islamic caliphate or state, is exactly what the mullahs, the Shiite ayatollahs, already have done in Iran 30 years ago.
Of course, but Iran is fighting against ISIS in Iraq. Iran is Shiite, ISIS is Sunni. Yeah. So you have real divisions there.
Yeah, but the real truth is that ISIS is trying now to establish a similar Islamic state, jihadist state in Iraq, as the ayatollahs already did in Iran. And therefore, bearing this in mind, you know, you have to defeat ISIS, but you cannot neglect the Iranian nuclear project. If the Shiite jihadist country, Iran, will get nuclear weapons or even will become a nuclear threshold state, this will be a disaster, not just for Israel and the Middle East, but for the world. And you are right, Rouhani came here 1 year ago, I mean to New York. It totally changed the tone. I say that it's a wolf in a sheep clothing. But what we see now is that although the tone is different than Ahmadinejad, the substance is the same. So far, Rouhani didn't make any significant concessions with regard to the core of the nuclear project, enriching uranium in centrifuges. And if there will be no dramatic developments, if Iran won't give up its nuclear enrichment facilities in the next 2 months, probably there will be no agreement, because President Obama said that no deal is better than bad deal. We didn't, I mean, we still have some hope that Iran will give up. But, you know, I'm not extremely optimistic.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much. To be continued.